Greetings. This is part 2 of my series, how to create a time-lapse video of the Milky Way. This will be the second and last video for this. The first video pretty much just covers how to take the pictures, how to set up the camera, what equipment you need, all that stuff. And basically at the end of that video, after you set up your camera and take a bunch of pictures, you're left with a camera full of a lot of pictures. So what do you do to take that camera and now convert it into an actual video? And that would be all the post-processing stuff. So starting now, well, you can see that I'm in Lightroom here. And at the bottom there's a gallery of photos, and these are, you might recognize from my time-lapse video, the first one that I've uploaded. I have yet to upload the second one, but it's in the works. And here's, you can see a few test shots. This was kind of playing around. This was shot at 1600 ISO, and then I bumped it up to 3200 ISO because I wanted a little bit more, I wanted a little brighter. So just as a review, the settings here was I was shooting a Nikon D300 with a 14-24 f2.8 lens. I was shooting at f2.8 for 30 seconds at ISO of 3200. And I'm in northern Michigan area, facing pretty much due south when I took this picture. Now, what I like to use Lightroom because Lightroom is great at batch processing, and you're going to have 300 to 400 plus images to process, and Lightroom is a million times faster than Photoshop, because you can easily make adjustments to one photo and then sync those adjustments across all the images. And since when you're taking the pictures, your exposure really isn't changing at all unless you capture you know, the sunset or the sunrise. Your exposure is pretty much the same, so any adjustments you make to one image will work pretty much across the board. Sometimes a few other variation instances where that might not work as well is if you have inconsistent lighting, or if there's cloud cover and clouds are moving by. Sometimes the clouds, full cloud coverage may not have the some of the adjustments may not be as good for full cloud coverage or partial or no cloud coverage. But in most cases you can make just a general adjustment across the entire range of photos. So just to give you an idea how you could do that in Lightroom, and there's a bunch of different softwares available out there, and you may have different workflow, and this is just showing you my workflow. So keep that in mind. There may be things that will work better for you, better for the equipment that you have, and all that. But here you can see in the history, I've actually already done some minor adjustments to the black clipping. So if I was to adjust it some more, let's say, and this is what I ended up with, and I wanted to then have that the adjustment made across all the image. I would just scroll over, find the last image, select them all, and then I can just hit sync here. Now you can select what you want to synchronize, but since I only made one change and nothing else is really going to matter, I just hit synchronize. Boom, goes through, synchronize, done. Now in Lightroom, these changes don't take effect until you actually export the photo. So then I'll go over here and I would export specific folder, time-lapse. One thing that you do is handy to have is to set up the images in some sort of serialized fashion. The output setting I typically use is JPEG, because you're going to be using another file to convert these images, or another software to convert these images into actual video. Most of them will work with JPEGs. You're not going to want to export them as like DNGs or any other strange formats. Plus JPEGs are just they're small in size, easier to work with than say TIFF. For me, and again this depends on what you're doing, what your the goal of the video is. If you're uploading to YouTube, you may not be looking to maximize quality, you may be trying to get the video to be relatively small, manageable, but still look good. When I do, I resize it to 1,000 pixels wide. That's a little less than a quarter the full-size image. I believe the images coming out of at 12 megapixels are usually around 4,200 pixels wide, so you can see that's less than a quarter the width. And then I do a little bit of minor sharpening. Again, this is something based on your own personal preferences, philosophy, and workflow. You may sharpen all the images in Lightroom yourself, or you may do it in the like as you're exporting, which is what I'm going to do right now. So then you just hit export. I'm not going to do it right now because I already have these photos exported, and you'll get a folder of images very similar to this. Again, now you still haven't quite got the video yet. I mean, you can kind of click through and kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like. Now this is interesting right here. I just want to point out, I think these are northern lights. Very faint northern lights. I didn't really notice it with the naked eye. I just only noticed the green streaks after I was looking at the images in the camera and then later on the computer. Yeah, very, very, very faint. So you have a bunch of images. Now we need some software to combine these together into a video. You could buy a bunch of software. There's definitely software out there. I don't really have any recommendations right now. I may be in the future, but what I did find is something called MakeAVI. It's a free software, open source software. I found it on CNET. You can search for it on CNET. It's free, and two reasons why I like it, besides the fact that it's free, is also that CNET has verified that it's malware and spyware free. So you just add files to it. Let's see here. I'm going to look on my export onto time-lapse. Whoops, it's not there. It's in farm. Here we go. Select all these. I hit Control A is the trick here. You can also scroll over and hit Shift and click on the first and last one. So you open. My computer, I think, is in the middle of doing something right now, so it's a little slow. Files listed here. Now, there's not a lot of features with MakeAVI. It's very free program, and but one of the things you can change is what they call frame rate. It's frames per second. You can just change it right here. The default in the program is 15 frames per second. Why is this important? Well, typical video usually shoots at around 25 or 30 frames per second. Now there's a trade-off though. You can choose. So I know that there's 322 images here. If at 15 frames per second, it means I need 15 images to make 1 second worth of video. If I was at 30 frames per second, then I need 30 images to make 1 second of video. So if you notice, if I go from 15 to 30, I'm having the amount of time that the video is going to be. So at 322 images, if I divide that by 15, because it's 15 frames per second, it's going to be approximately 21.5 second long video. If I decide to go with 20 frames per second, let's see, 322 divided by 20, it's going to be 16 second video. If I do a 25 frames per second, it's going to be 13 seconds, approximately, a little shy of 13 seconds. And if I do 30 frames per second, it's going to be at a 10.7 seconds of video. So that's not a lot. The video that I have, little sample from part 1, and then also on my video, I'm doing it at 15 frames per second to maximize more of the time and less of the quality side. But you will get a better quality video at 25 to 30 frames per second. There might be some people who watch this and cringe the fact that I'm using 15 frames per second. But again, it all depends on what you're after and your own personal philosophy. If I was putting this video together to sell to a client, I would probably run it at a much higher frame rate, at least 25 frames per second, and then image size, for instance, would be much larger, so they're getting a much better quality video than what I upload to YouTube. You simply click begin. You pick a spot to save it, so I'm just going to choose 1111 AVI that I already have here as a tester. Hit save. Now, the only other, one of the few things that you can change here is you can change what codec, video codec you use to output the video. This does have a pretty significant effect of the quality, because certain video, because it's going to compress the images, compress the video and make it smaller than the sum of all those images. When it does that, some will compress them much more intelligently than others. So some of these, like the radius one here that I clicked on, is I found to be not a very good codec, just because it creates what they call banding. You can see it doesn't have enough colors in the image, it doesn't maintain enough color, so you see like bands of color as opposed to a smooth gradient of color. One of the ones that seemed to work well for me is the Intel IYUV. I am not a video expert, so you're probably going to have to play around a little bit with yourself. That sounded bad. Play around with this a bit on your own. Figure out, you know, it's easy to export these videos. It only takes a minute or so. You can export it, view it, see if you like it, and then kind of maybe check it off, be like good, bad, you know, rate it. Another one, if you do the full uncompresses, it's just going to be a huge, huge video. Probably close to or greater than a gig or so in size, depending on how many images you have, how big they are, and all that. So in this particular one, because I'm not actually going to export it, I'm just going to click on select the DivX one, never tried it, hit OK, and then it'll start building, outputting the video. I'm just going to cancel this. Okay, so that is pretty much it. This right here is probably the bare bones software that you can use, and it's great for getting you started. And if you decide to get really serious, then you can go and you can buy much better software that allows you to do much better videos. After you've exported your video, you can use what's available on most, I think Vista at least, and probably Windows 7, is the Microsoft Movie Maker. That's a simple free program. You can put video, you can put still frames in, you can overlay music or other audio on top of the video, and quickly and easily kick out a simple video. So if you have any questions, you know, feel free to leave comments or questions, message me through YouTube. Also, I might put together a video of just people's photo questions. And please subscribe. I'm going to be posting more videos on various other how-tos for photography, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.